You got to forsake your righteousness and call on his righteousness. And his righteousness is found only in his presence. That's why it's not a matter of, well, a little worship music, a little worldly music. No. You need every vehicle you can to get into his presence, because once you're in his presence, you cannot sin. You can't get angry at your husband. You can't get angry at your children. You can't walk in unforgiveness. You can't abide in the lusts of the flesh. Not in his presence. You've got to get out of his presence to abide in those things. Hello? So Yeshua was manifest and will manifest his presence to destroy the sins that you struggle with in your life. The question is, will you allow him to manifest his presence? By abiding in his righteousness. You know what abiding in his righteousness is? Not going to service once a week. I wish it was that easy. Not going to Bible study twice a week. You know what it means to abide in his righteousness? To be in his presence 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, whether you're awake or sleeping. Oh, Rabbi, that's impossible. No one can do that. Really? For this reason, the Son of Yahweh was manifest to destroy the work of the devil. What is the work of the devil? Rebellion, sin. When we sin, we are displaying the character of Satan. When we abide in Yeshua, we cannot. Not only we do not, we cannot sin. That's good news. Hello? Amen. Are we dealing with 3-card Monte or 5-card poker, or are we dealing with the real good news? The real good news is there's a place 24/7 when you can stop sinning. That's the real good news. Question is, will we allow Yeshua to manifest by abiding in his righteousness? Verse 9. Whoever has been born of Yahweh, here we go, does not sin. Now you know you sin. You know you sin. You know I sin. We all sin. So verse 9 says, if you're born of Yahweh, you do not sin. So who's right? Is Yahweh right or am I right? I do sin. You know you sin. You know I sin. And Yahweh said, but if you're born again, if you're born of Yahweh, you don't sin. How many know that Yahweh is not a man that he should lie, or the Son of Man that he should repent? If you're born of Yahweh, you cannot sin. That's what the word of Yahweh says. What does that mean? Verse 9. Whoever has been born of Yahweh cannot sin. Well, Yahweh, I do sin. My husband, I sin. He sins. My children sin. What do you mean? We've all been born again. How can this be? Whoever has been born of Yahweh does not sin, because his zera, who's zera? The Father's seed. Who's the Father's seed? You and I. Remain in him. If you're born again, and the seed of the Father, which is you, born again children of Yahweh, remain in his presence, go ahead. Let me see you fornicate while you're worshiping him and loving him in his presence. It's impossible. But because you're in a righteousness that is not of your own. You're in a righteousness that is not of this world. You're in a righteousness that comes from the blessed Son of Man, the Son of Yahweh. Hallelujah. And he left us his Ruach to destroy the presence of the devil, to get you to disobey Yahweh. For this reason the Son of Yahweh was manifest, that he would destroy, that he might destroy the works of Satan. Notice, for the seed of Yahweh remains in him. Who is the seed of Yahweh? Who is Yisrael? Who is renewed covenant Yisrael? You and I are renewed covenant Israel, are we not? If our seed remains in him, if we're truly born again, we're going to want to remain in him. That's the end of the sin problem. Solved. How many are sleeping on me? Can I see your hand, please, if you're sleeping? Solved. If we are born of Him, and if we remain in Him, we cannot sin because we have been born to remain in Him. You haven't been born again to visit Him once a week on Shabbat. You've been born again to abide and stay and remain in Him, somebody. Hallelujah. And it can be done. I haven't done it yet, but it can be done. It can be done. If it couldn't be done, He would have told us it can't be done. I'm writing this, but it can't be done. Did Yeshua say that? I'm writing this, but it can't be done. It can be done. Just because we haven't done it, it proves we are not yet what we shall be. We are called B'nai Yahweh, but we are not yet what we shall be, because we know that when He shall appear, we shall be what? Like Him, meaning if you stay in Him, you will one day be like Him with no desire to sin. Can I hear a good amen? Amen. I say, can I hear a good amen? Amen. The question is, will we remain in Him? So now I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because I don't want to embarrass you. But every hand would go up, or every hand should go up. If I asked you how many are struggling with sin, every hand would go up. Doubt, unbelief. Me, Zachariah. Every hand would go up. Fear, doubt, unbelief, anger, unforgiveness, whatever it is. If you're struggling with sin, it is because, now you're not going to like this. You're not going to like it. I hope you like me, but you're not going to like it. It's because you're still doing it the Torah way. The Torah way was work, 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 never rest, use your own righteousness to attract the attention of the Father. The renewed covenant way says, no, Torah is in you. It's finished. Now stay in my love. You've received my love. Now stay in my love and follow the Torah to show me you love me. But don't use it for righteousness. You follow the Torah to show me you love me. But don't use it to attract me to your unrighteousness, because you have no righteousness to attract me to. And the Torah is good and tov if one uses the Torah legally. If one uses the Torah illegally, it's bad. It's illegal to use the Torah to try to achieve righteousness without the renewed covenant. That's what Jewish people do. That's the sin of Jewish people. Without Yeshua. They are trying to achieve a righteousness that does not come from heaven, from Yeshua through impartation. You ought to be happy today because I am showing you the solution to stop sinning. It's not trying to change yourself or to get help. Before you get help, abide in Him. Because whoever is born of Yahweh, because his seed is in Him, and we know that in Him is no sin. Hello, if you can find a way to get into Him, you have no propensity, or proclivity, or desire to sin. So the question in the New Testament is, and I said that for a reason, the question in the New Testament is, will you get into Him an hour a week, or will you get into Him all the time? I said, that's the question. So if you're struggling with sin, you're not doing it His way. You and I must rely on His righteousness and in order to get into His presence. As we get closer to Yeshua and we draw closer to Him, the behavior that is not of Yahweh will fall away. Did you hear what I said? If you get into Him and stay in His presence, you will never again behave the way you behaved before. You are only in danger when you get out of his presence and into the earshot of somebody who's causing you to sin, or your own voice who's causing. And how many know the devil never talks to you in his own voice? He talks to you in yours. It sounds like me talking to myself. Lie to the man. Tell him you have no money. Tell him you're not home. Tell him it doesn't apply to me. Tell him I'm not Jane Doe. I'm Janita Dowinski. Jane Doe's not here. Lying, manipulation, and twisting the truth. And it's got to be Yahweh, because Yahweh is talking to me in my own voice. The voice hasn't changed. It's not a bah. The devil's too smart for that. When the devil wants you to act on his behalf, he talks to you in your own voice. Moshe, you can do it now. No one's looking. No one's here. It's Moshe that's talking to Moshe. I wish the devil showed up with the it'd be easy to get rid of him. I bind you, you foul, unclean spirit, you demon, you. Unfortunately, he doesn't show up like that. No. So as we get close to Yeshua, we draw close to him and he draws close to us. The behavior will fall away, gradually or sometime right away. If you're struggling with sin, it is a sign that you are fighting against sin on your own. Don't miss that. I'm going to sit down. I'll say that again. If you are struggling with sin, it is a sign that you are struggling with sin on your own. There's not a person in this room that could leave the bondage of sin on their own. Because if you could, you wouldn't have gotten saved that way. Even for salvation, you fell on the mercies and the goodness of Yeshua to remove your sins and take them away. In order for him to accept you, you had to fall on his mercy. So if you couldn't take your sins away 10 years ago, what makes you think you're going to take that thing that keeps coming up in your life, foul mouth, cursing, what makes you think that's ever going to go away if you don't hide yourself in him? If you're still struggling with sin, that means you're trying to overcome sin on your own. And brothers and sisters, we have a friend who's closer than a brother. Why don't we use that best friend? Proverbs 18:24. There's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. So if we're still struggling with sin, it is a sign we are fighting our own battle. Only through the Ruach can we overcome sin. And we know when we sin, we represent the character of Satan. If we don't tap into a greater righteousness, or Yeshua's righteousness, we get to a certain point and no further. Can your own righteousness bring you somewhere? Yes. Your own righteousness, you could learn how to make tzitzit. You could learn how to wear head coverings. You could learn how to daven. You could learn how to kiss the Torah. Your own righteousness will take you a long way. But it ain't going to take you to deliverance. Deliverance only comes by staying in him. Staying in his presence. If Yahweh says, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to get rid of your anger and your foul mouth, but I will tell you this. If your seed is in me and you remain in me, it will fall away. Eventually, it will fall away. Now that's good news. If you're coming here to visit, please go to Publix. Because you're here to check us out. This is not a checkout counter. Checkout counter is in Winn-Dixie. This is a place to abide in him, to be encouraged. To abide in him. In the purification process, he will be with you every step of the way. If you abide in him, if you remain in him, he will be with you every step of the way. He will not leave you or forsake you. And let's be honest, today most of us don't do the things we did when we first got saved. Let's be honest. But if you stay in him, what you're doing today, you won't be doing in a year from now. But if you try to do it in your own righteousness, you cannot overcome sin in your own strength. You cannot. And if you know this, you will not mind presenting yourself to Yeshua, because you cannot hide your sin from him anyway. Yeshua is a true friend. You can get into him. He won't tell your secrets. He won't break your confidence. You can tell him your needs and your true weaknesses, and he will not reject you, but he will agree to purify you with his righteousness. That's how sin falls away. Those who abide in him cannot sin. That's what Yahweh's word says. You know, it's very hard for us to believe. You mean if I'm in his presence, I cannot sin? Exactly. If sin comes into his presence, it'll either die, get sick, quiver, or will walk out. But it cannot remain in it. Sin cannot remain in his presence. Because the word of Yahweh says, he is of purer eyes than to behold iniquity. Sin will either die, like a cancerous tumor, in his presence, or it will walk away from his presence, but sin cannot thrive and survive in his presence. The reason you keep on doing the same things with the same people who are victimized in your life is because you and I have not learned how to remain in him. It's hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Right? It's hard to remain in him. Especially when the bill collectors are calling. Especially when the car's stuck on 95. Now remain in him. Don't get angry. Don't complain. Don't get short-tempered. Don't curse. Now it's difficult. The car is stuck on 95. AAA hasn't come. We're complaining. Is anyone with me?
With you.
I said, is anyone with me?
With you.
Yeshua is a true friend. Tell him your needs, your weaknesses, the sin that does so easily beset you. And he will agree with you to purify you with his righteousness. That's how sin falls away. Those who abide in him cannot sin. Do you believe Yahweh's word? I believe his word. I don't believe I can do it on my own. But he said, if I remain in him, I cannot sin. Now, if that's not good news, I don't know what on earth is. If I remain in him, I cannot sin. And all my life I've been sinning. Before salvation, I was sinning. And after salvation, I was sinning. So I've got to remain in him. I've got to learn how to get into his presence. And that is the most difficult thing you'll ever do. More difficult than learning Hebrew. Learning Hebrew is easy compared to learning how to remain in his presence. Very difficult, but it's the place where sin dies. Baruch Hashem Yahweh.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh.
That's how sin falls away. Those who abide in him cannot sin. You're protected. Are you his seed? Yeah. That means if you are born of Yahweh and in his seed, meaning Israel, remains in him, they cannot sin. We must remain in him. The only place that sin cannot crouch at our door. We must learn, brethren, how to hide from sin. Because sin, like Cain, is crouching at our door. Sin is crouching at your door, and its desire is for you. Its desire is to get you to walk into its trap. Sin is crouched at all of our doors. Hallelujah. And so how do we get it out? Because its desire is toward us, to encroach on our lives in Yahweh, in Yeshua. The only way is to remain in him, and another way to say remain in him is to hide. Hide. We have to practice hiding ourselves from the world, the devil, the pressures. We've got to hide in him. Go with me to Tehillim 91. Tehillim 91. That's how we do not sin. That's how we break the cycle of sin patterns. By hiding in him, remaining in him. Not in our own righteousness, but in his. Meaning, I'm learning in my ministry. I haven't learned yet because I haven't arrived. Even though I'd like to think I've arrived. But in my ministry, I am learning that I can conduct my ministry two ways. I could preach against everybody who's wrong and about everything that's wrong. Or I could lift up Yeshua and draw all men to me.
Hallelujah!
And Yeshua said, if I'm lifted up, I will draw all men to me. There's enough error in doctrine, in behavior, in the way people carry out Torah, that we could preach from now until Chinese New Year and still not be finished preaching against what's wrong with me, with you, and with everybody else. We'll be here for 10 Chinese New Years. Daryl. This is wrong, the doctrine is wrong, he's wrong, I'm wrong. There's enough things wrong in this world that we could preach about what is wrong. Or we could lift up Yeshua. Amen?
Amen! Amen!
You know, there are self-righteous people in this congregation. Did you know that? And I'm sometimes self-righteous too. A self-righteous person is always uptight, always stressed out. They're not enjoying their walk in Yeshua, and they're always looking for people to find fault with other people. I used to have a lady, she doesn't want to congregation anymore. I used to have a lady sit in the back. During worship, during this, she would just sit there and watch it. And she would take, who's chewing gum? Who's showing pictures? Who's passing around the driver's license? And she'd come to me after the service with a whole litany of charges. Well, who's the accuser of the brother? You better think of it. Satan's the accuser of the brother. You could always tell a self-righteous person that's always finding fault with other people. I was one of them, and I'm still, and I'm learning. If you're always finding fault with yourself and with other people, you have a case of self-righteousness. Tehillim 91. Tehillim 91. He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of Yahweh, He is my refuge and my fortress, my Elohim, in Him will I trust. Surely He will deliver you from the trap of the hunter and from the destructive pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, His righteousness, and under His wings you shall trust. Not your wings, His wings. His emet shall be your shield and your armor. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, or the destruction that ravages at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand in their own self-righteousness. But self-righteousness and destruction shall not come to you. Here it is, 91:1. The one who dwells in Him, in the secret place, where there is no sin, will abide in the shadow, and they will have refuge and fortress because He has no sin in Him. We have to learn how to hide from sin by hiding in Him.
Hallelujah!
Sin is crouching at your door, sister. Sin is crouching at your door. Sin is in your bedroom. Sin is in your mouth. Sin is in your heart. Sin is in your friends. Sin is in the congregation where you go. And there is no way to escape it unless you hide yourself under the shadow of the Almighty, under His wings, and trust in His wings. The word of Yahweh doesn't lie. It says, hide yourself in Him, because in Him is no sin. P.S. If you hang out with Him, if you stay with Him, you cannot sin, because His real seed, us, Israel, Judah, and Ephraim, remain in Him. His carnal seed comes in and out of Him. In one day, out the next day. In 1 week, out the next week. And I'm not talking about coming to the shul. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about putting the kids to bed at 7 so you could be alone with Yahweh and spend time with Yahweh. And it is difficult, especially with World Series on. You think I'm going to go home tonight and spend time with Yahweh? I'm spending time with Yahweh now. I'm going to go watch the World Series. I'm being honest. Jerry, come on, cough it up, baby. Be honest, Jerry. The proverbial Jerry. Who is Jerry? I don't know, and don't tell me. One day Yahweh's going to send the Jerry here, you know that. I'm being honest. I'm not going to run home and spend time with Yahweh. 5 hours with Yahweh is a maximum lube job. I'm going to get me some Red Sox. Red Sox Nation. I'm being honest. Go ahead and condemn me if you want, you self-righteous Pharisee. That's what I'm going to do. But, so in other words, I haven't learned how to abide completely in him, have I? It's very difficult. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And then, of course, what happens during the Red Sox game? Paris Hilton comes on selling B.F. Goodrich tires. Only problem is Paris isn't wearing any clothes today. No problem. I have the remote control. Yeah, man, but I don't want to use the remote control. That's what it means. Now, so when you're exposed to that, you're not abiding in him. We're laughing, but am I abiding in him when I got the remote? No, that's what I'm talking about. It's very difficult. But in him there is no sin. And the solution to my sin is to hide in him. To remain in him. Verse 10. She's not my type anyway.
Hallelujah.
I'm telling you the truth, man. She ain't my type.
Hallelujah.
Verse 10. Verse 10. This is the B'nai Yahweh and the children of Satan manifest. And by the way, I love the way the ladies say that. Don't worry, brother, I'm not going to sin. Lady says, don't worry, I'm not going to sin. He's not my type. My mama told me love goes through the stomach. Stomach is full of food, money, and materialism. All girls eventually can fall in love. Sorry, I'm right. In this, the B'nai Yahweh and the children of Satan are manifest. Ooh. Whoever does not do tzedakah is not of Yahweh, nor is he who does not love his brother. All you need is love. For this is the message you have heard from what? Bereshit, the book of Genesis, that we should love one another.
Amen.
Not as Cain, who was of the wicked one, came and murdered his brother. Why did he murder him? Because his own works were evil and his brothers were tzaddik. How come Abel, knew to offer Yahweh a flock from the herd, a blood sacrifice at the appointed time? Because he hid himself in Yahweh's righteousness.
Hallelujah.
Look at the end of verse 12. Abel, his works were tzaddik. Cain's works were murderously wicked. How many know Yahweh hates when his children hate and murder each other? Mishlei 6.
Yeah.
How many know Yahweh hates when his children murder and hate each other? When a brother hates or slanders. Have you ever met a brother or sister who walked in unforgiveness, hatred, or slandered somebody else? You ever meet somebody like that? I sure have. You ever meet somebody like that? They walk in slander, unforgiveness, false witness. Look what the scripture tells you. This is why they're doing that. You know why they bore false witness about you? Why they're lying about you? Why they're slandering you? While they're murdering you in their heart and they hate your guts and they don't love you? You know why they're doing that? Let me show you why. Because they're not remaining in him. They're not abiding in him. Watch. Look at this. Watch this.